Welcome to Benevolent Business, the podcast exploring how to build a business that positively impacts the community, the environment, employees, and much more. Discussing with business leaders and founders about their journeys, their unique experiences, and what we can all learn from their journey. Brought to you by your host, Hayden Bloomfield, and producer, David Proud.
You nearly forgot to introduce us.
Do I have to start again now?
No.
This week, we're joined by Richard Turner of Employees Health. But first...
Wait. Hayden, I thought you got a new office. Where are you?
I've been kicked out of the office. It's right there.
This is great for the people listening to the podcast, but we're trying to do it beforehand. And Hayden's new office where he's meant to have nice peace and quiet to record a podcast. He's been chucked out by his girlfriend. So.
That shows who the boss is.
So last week we spoke to Benevolent Business, who wrote Generation Share, which is a brilliant interview, but I understand since then you have bought her book?
You are correct, David, I have.
Cool, so let's just have a quick chat about it. So what do you think of the book overall, because it's like a coffee table style book, isn't it?
It is, yeah, because I ordered it and sort of, my expectations was just your sort of standard self-help book, like rectangle, sort of just a bit bigger than the size of your hand, and maybe a few, like 100 and something pages. And then it arrived and it's like this giant square book, bright yellow, absolutely love the colour, obviously, fits in with my company colourways. And yeah, it is just flicking through story after story with loads of like amazing visuals. Well, obviously it was in collaboration with a photographer. So
and I suppose when you got the visuals being quite an important component from it, you want it to be like this big thing that really shows it off as well.
Yeah, exactly. And so first impressions, I got the thing, I was just like, damn, this is a book. And yeah, so I haven't finished reading it, and it's the kind of thing that you don't go from page 1 to page 2 to page 3 and just like read it as a story. It is just, so obviously where Benita was saying, she traveled the world, got to meet these incredible people, and has captured a snippet of their journey in each page or within a couple of pages. So you're just sort of going through reading little snippets on different individuals and different businesses. So it's all quite inspiring. So it's the kind of thing that you could even just have every morning. You could make it part of your morning routine, wake up and just read one inspirational story. And that's quite a good idea, actually.
Or it could be a toilet book.
A toilet book.
Or is it too big for that?
I mean, you'd be stuck in a toilet for a long time if you're going to... Well, the problem is, because it's just little snippets, it's one of those things where you read one, you're like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, look, the next one's here. And then you finish that one and there's another one on the other page. You're like, oh, what do they do?
It's like Netflix. You've got literally 5 seconds to decide. You're like, I might as well just do another one then.
Yeah. So it is very captivating.
So what's your favourite story that you've read so far then?
Ooh, favourite story.
The best thing about this is we prepared this episode in advance and then Hayden forgot to bring the book with him to record it.
I'm moving between offices and home. I'm trying to think, I got the book and I was reading it with a wad of Post-it notes thinking, anything that stands out, I'll Post-it note and then save that, and you never know, future guest on a podcast. Problem is, I used a lot of Post-it notes. There was a lot of, obviously, Benita will echo herself. She went around meeting these incredible people, capturing these incredible stories, and it's the snippet of that story in there. So that you're seeing the highlights of what she discovered. So to say what is your favourite one, there is a lot of businesses doing incredible things. There's things in there, I don't want to give spoilers away, but there's things in there where you just didn't realise people were doing so much in terms of benevolence and helping people in all sorts of different sectors, whether it's in mental health, in the way we prepare food, the way we think about food, and the way we communicate with each other, all these different aspects of our lives. And it's not like there's just one thing that they concentrate on. There's no fixed genre. There's just so many different categories of business and different industries they connect with. So to say, the example Benita gave in her story is definitely a standout one, but there is a lot in there. So to pinpoint one, I couldn't do it. And I haven't read the whole book yet, so it might be a little bias.
So I'm getting very distracted by a girlfriend and a dog making loads of music.
Not sure
music,
I want to know.
Making music. Right, so one of the things that I've really enjoyed since starting this podcast, and it's excelled with talking to Benita, is when I started, it's like, there's businesses doing these nice things for people, and it's just a few of them, but you learn it's like a whole world out there. A lot of people are doing this stuff you just don't hear about. So it's really good to have someone out there going out and championing it and bringing it to people.
So yeah, exactly. I completely agree with you, Dave, there. And because one thing I saw recently is Waitrose has now even got a page on there. So like when you go on Waitrose and do your online shopping, there's now actually a category of shopping with B Corps. So you can go on there and select to make sure that you're getting your produce from a certified B Corporation, which I just think is incredible. And I hope,
wow.
Yeah, I hope many
That's like
other
one of the filters in the basket.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know if it's something new. I saw like the highlight reel of it, but I don't know if that's something that they've full on embedded in their website or it's something that's sort of coming out. But I love the idea of that you'll be able to start filtering your search based on how ethical a company is and how sustainable they are.
Yeah, I'd like to see more of that sort of stuff. That'd be really good. I think that's the way it's going, really, isn't it? People, especially since the pandemic, are a lot more aware of where their stuff comes from, where the money's going, where they're spending their money. So the easier you can make it for people to surface that sort of information, the better, really.
We've all become a lot more conscientious, and I think it's just having that time to pause and reflect a lot. And also seeing, like going through the whole pandemic and seeing the environmental impact of actually all of us pausing and not jumping in a millions and millions of cars every day and going along and commuting and releasing so many toxins into the air, seeing how quickly the earth can recover and the impact that can have. Yeah, it's definitely made people more aware. And businesses that are investing more in their people and in their ethos and looking at what they can do to become more sustainable and environmentally friendly, they'll come up trumps at the end of all of this. And I think people are becoming, as you said, becoming more aware of it and are more encouraged to shop with companies that are doing those sorts of things.
I mean, with that being said, let's change gears a bit and let's talk to someone about workplace wellbeing, which is a subject we haven't talked about yet.
Which I've been really keen to get guests on, in particular, like in terms of thinking about employee wellbeing, because it's obviously running my own company, having staff. It's something that I definitely want to learn a lot about, and I need to learn a lot about, and there's a lot of improvements to be made. So, conversation I was very excited to have.
Great. Let's talk to Richard Turner.
Richard, welcome to Benevolent Business. Thank you for coming on. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very good, very good. So, to jump straight in, kick things off, employees' health. Can you give us a quick 30-second snippet of exactly what employees' health is?
So, employees' health is a business to help HR or CEOs, HR, and the individuals in companies to support their employees' health and well-being. We look at well-being as a whole, so it's mental health, well-being, physical health, financial health, lifestyle, all these kind of things to support somebody in work, out of work, and in their day-to-day life.
If I was a big CEO or head of HR, how is it we go about connecting with employees' health to bring on your services?
Obviously, we've all our social medias. My main platform for reaching out is LinkedIn. We also have a website, which is employeeshealth.co.uk. Reach out to me, and I'll be the person which will be contacting you and speaking to you to figure out what it is we can do to help.
So I want to get straight into sort of, with employees' health, the journey of how it all came to be. So obviously, like employees' health, helping people like that, especially with what's going on in the world at the moment, has got to be one of the most important things to think about. If you've got a team behind you, thinking of their own well-being is so key at the moment with the virus and the pandemic. So how is it with you in your journey so far? Because you've been trading, is it sort of a year and a half, 2 years now?
Yeah, so it's nearly 2 years. We were trading under a different brand name when we started in January 2019. Obviously, it's been a bit of a journey to get to where we are now, both in kind of how the company looks, but then also how the company's been able to survive during this period. So it's been kind of a bit of a fun journey. I suppose it's been quite enjoyable getting to talk to people, meet people, discuss kind of how we can help and the kind of things people are going to need both before COVID and after COVID. Sounds like before Christ and after Christ, doesn't it? I feel like we're going to be doing that for a little while. But yeah, it's kind of, that's where we are at the moment. And employees' health come along at the beginning of COVID to give people a sense of actually we are a full wellbeing company and we're looking to help people in different aspects.
Okay, before we jump into all things around COVID, I want to sort of go back to the start. So if I've got done my research correctly, so you began it as a personal trainer and you had your own practitioner, or you had your own business in personal training, and then employees' health came as a result of that. But can you take us through the journey of where you were before and what led you onto this journey of having such a benevolent business of employees' health?
Yeah, I mean, it's been probably quite a long journey to become a wellbeing coach or personal trainer, which probably started when I was kind of 15, 16, when I changed my life goal, rather than being a builder, to being something within the physical health or physical activity, or being a coach, a sports coach kind of field. I didn't know where I wanted to go at that stage, but my focus was to go and firstly get to college. When I got to college, okay, done college, studied sport. Okay, I want to go to university and experience university life. If I'm honest, play hockey a lot more. So I did that, got a degree in sports science. And then from there, it was just been kind of a bit of a journey, just figuring out where I wanted to go. And then about 3 years after getting back from Australia playing hockey, I started up my own personal training company, which I think was 2014. So for the last 6 years, I've been personal training, and I still do that now. I'm still a personal trainer. I still help clients enhance their physical health. But for 6 years, I've had a few different companies and worked in a few different gyms. And then in 2018, I decided to leave that role and do something a little bit different, which eventually got me around to being or creating Future You.
With all of that, have you always had that physique of being very healthy, very fit, very strong and muscular? Has that always been in your life, or have you ever had a battle with that?
As you guys just found out, I'm 6'4", so there's always been a battle with building muscle and building an athletic physique. So I think there's always been a journey there, and it's still always going to be a journey for me. I think it's always partly something I enjoy, but it's always something which when you're in this professional, when you're in this mindset of physical appearance, I guess, wanting to look better naked, if we put it in the most simple term, I always find you're always looking to be better. So I'm always looking to try and build muscle, always trying to look better, be stronger, maybe be a bit fitter, be a better hockey player, all these kind of things. My life is focused around that since when I first started training at 17. So ever since that, I've always had that focus to be better in some way through my physical health, or my physical activity anyway.
Is it a bit of a balance between trying to look better, be better and improve yourself, and actually being happy with how you are?
Yeah, I suppose so, to a point where I guess I'm very happy with how I am and how well the journey I've come from. Because I remember what I was like when I was a 16-year-old, 6'4", very skinny lad, and athletic, because I would run around all the time and I was very energetic, to where I am now. So I appreciate the journey I have. But I suppose, am I happy with how I look? Sometimes. And sometimes I'm probably not. Sometimes I look in the mirror and go, actually, you're not doing too bad, Rich. And sometimes I go, oh, why am I so small? Why am I not where I want to be? Or the physique you see all over social media, I'm like, I'd love to look like that. I'd love to look like that. But I suppose if you flip that on its head, it's a positive motivation rather than, for me, being negative motivation. It's like, okay, carry on, get back in the gym, keep grinding.
Because Rich, when we had our chat before, we were both very similar in the sense that you'd said like your own personal experience with mental health is that you've always been quite happy. You've not suffered with like severe depression or anything. You've not really had like huge mental struggles that, from what you said. And like I've had a similar experience where, so like learning more about depression, learning more about anxieties, like I've not got a tangible connection to that other than with like people I've been close to. So when you're talking about, I suppose I completely understand what you're talking about. I think everybody understands that in terms of like scrolling through social media and seeing what other people's lives are like according to the screen. But so in your mental journey, how is it that you've kept such a strong mental hold on that?
I suppose it comes probably from my personality a little bit. My family, my brother, the family would maybe call me a bit arrogant, I suppose. But I look at it more as a confidence thing. I've been in this, I think I've always tried to be confident about it, and just within my personality I'm confident. So maybe that could be an area of maybe why that's a bit better, maybe being able to deal with it a bit better, I guess. And I maybe I would recognise my strengths as much as I would recognise my weaknesses. So I think I'm looking, okay, I am 6'4", and that to me is automatically a strength. I always say I've got good genes. So I always look at that and say, okay, at least there's one tick in the box. Okay, I'm now 100 kilos. That's another tick in the box. And some people don't have that. But the nice thing about it is you get humbled by when you're in a gym. There's a guy in the gym which is 6'5", so an extra inch taller than me, but he's an extra 20 kilos heavier than me, and he's a ton stronger than me. So there's always a battle between being, okay, I'm pretty happy with where I am, and I'm honest about it. But then there was also, okay, there's my competition. There's, okay, that's what I could look like. That's what it's a bit of a battle between being happy and confident. And I always say the word confident rather than arrogant, because I also understand there's always better than me as well. Because if there wasn't, I'd be on a pro stage. I would be an athlete competing in the Olympics. So I can be humbled.
Okay. So I want to extrapolate some key points there. So because I think a lot of people now, especially with how well connected we are, like in terms of social media, there's a huge issue with this. I'm going to say younger people and adolescents, but I just think all people suffer it in terms of that ideology of what people look like on the screen. So you're talking there about always recognizing the positive attributes you do have. So I'm trying to think from the eyes of someone that would sort of scroll through social media, whether they're male, female, and they're thinking about their physical being and building their strength and keeping a good tone, and they're scrolling through social media just thinking, oh, look, that person's better built than me, that person's stronger than me, that person can lift more than me, that person just looks better than me in a swimsuit, that person's got, I don't know, more friends than me because of their physical attributes, whatever. So in terms of the key points for you in keeping that strong mental well-being and keeping yourself positive and without suffering, so is that a case of, as you said, recognizing the positive attributes you do have? Like you said, you're 6'4", that's a great starting point. We've all got something we start with, and recognizing the sort of goals that you've set, and that, look, while that person can bench X amount, I've managed to achieve this amount. Although it's half as much, I started down here. So it's just about recognizing what you have achieved and focusing on yourself rather than social media so much.
Yeah, I think it's partly, which, as you said, like looking back at the achievements you've made. And I think you get to a stage, as I said, like I've been training since I was 17 years old. I've been doing this for a long time now. You get to a stage where it is your lifestyle. It is, I've been training for this long, like I go up and down in how much I can lift and whatever lift that is, because I'm either eating better, eating well, eating less because I'm trying to lose weight, blah, blah, blah. But it's just the journey, it's just my life. I go to the gym 4 days a week, and if hockey season is off, I'm there a bit more. But it's so ingrained in me now that actually I try not to focus on it too much. But I do think it's tough with social media because we do look at other people and judge ourselves from that rather than use the comparisons, because we're not all the same, are we? And I think being able to look at that and go, okay, there's a reason why I might be different to that person. What you're seeing is that we haven't got a clue how he's got there, what his genetic makeup's like. So it's just being a bit more open-minded. And I suppose I'm quite lucky because of the groups and the friendship groups and the gyms and all this kind of stuff I'm part of. It's like a little bit easier for me, I guess.
So you talked about there, you touched on like you have your ups and your downs. So what is a down? Do you go through, when you said like you've been able to lift different weights over different time periods, so what is the sort of lows? Is it just like a day where you wake up and you can't be asked, or is it like a month-long thing? Like what are the lows for you?
So again, we're getting a whole story here. So I guess lows for me in the gym, or lows for me within my physical health, would be some days, I think everybody gets this, right? Some days I look in the mirror and go, oh God, what is this? And that's probably one of the lows. But for me, my lows revolve around probably my effort during life, I guess. I get more low about not doing enough around work. Again, I get more low in the stress and anxiety from, have I done enough? Am I going in the right steps? And why am I doing it? And is what I'm doing correct? I get more low from this stress than I do from the gym stress. The gym's just ingrained, like that's not going to change. I don't get stressed by that. I don't really get stressed by how I look. Maybe that's because I've been doing it for 10 years and I understand my body's not going to all of a sudden be back as a 17-year-old lad. I know that's not going to happen overnight. I know it's not going to happen over a month lockdown. So I have that recognition and understanding. So I get more stressed, but I've run Employees Health for 2 years. And you forget how hard you don't know how hard running the business is, and you forget doing it all by yourself that there are these challenges. And okay, I might not be able to talk to everybody or do all this. I'm not only just running Employees Health, I'm being a personal trainer, so half of my time is taken away as well. So that's where my stress comes from, my anxiety comes from, is am I doing this? They're my lows. I question it, and I don't feel motivated sometimes to do that. So when I don't feel motivated, then my stress goes up because I'm worried about not doing what I should be doing for Employees Health. In that experience with your life, so have you found the people sort of around you can help with that, those highs, those lows? Because when we discussed before, you mentioned like your mentor. So
in going through those fluctuations, whether they're short-term, long-term, have you always found that people around you can help influence that mood?
What's nice about starting a business within this field of work is that everybody's very understanding. Like, I've made connections with tons of different businessmen, you guys included, that when you talk to people on a level and you're honest about how work is going and honest about how life is, you lose that stress. You lose that, actually, this is just business. And you begin to, like, one of the best things I've ever done was I got a business mentor, and actually I've got a couple now, but they kind of go, actually, you're doing the correct thing. Maybe just do this, and they just keep you in line. But they remind you of how hard it is, and it reminds you, just keep doing what you're doing because you're doing a great job. And it's just changing your realization or changing those goals to make it fit a bit more, I guess. So you're not always putting yourself under pressure.
I just want to repeat something you said that I think is so fundamentally important when you said about, like, in the network you have and the people you speak to, is just being open and honest. And when people talk about, when it's just the questions of how's things going and catching up and just having those conversations with people and other business owners, like, especially in business and in all aspects of life, but really I've found that, to echo what you said, in business, is to actually be honest and be like, do you know what, I'm really struggling with this and it's really getting me down, it's really stressing me out, it's causing me a lot of anxiety. Just by being open and honest, you can find that you say that you have a few conversations and just the feedback you get, suddenly that problem can be solved for you, or you can realize that actually it's not much of a problem, and given the circumstances you're actually doing really well, but just in your head, without sharing that problem, it can just build up so much and just cause so many issues from that. But as you said there, just sharing and, like, having mentors and having people you can go to, just, yeah, I wanted to echo that point because it's been such a huge significance in my life. But on the subject of, like, having a mentor, so how have you gone about finding a mentor?
I was pretty lucky, actually. I was suggested, and it's a free service for everybody, but I was suggested from my website designer, actually one of my best friends as well, to join the King Foundation. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yeah, I'm part of it.
You are. So the King Foundation, obviously, if you're under 30, gets free business support. And that helped me no end. I was put in contact with my business mentor. From there, it just gave me guidance, because I'd never run a professional business before. Like, this to me is a professional business. My personal training were just businesses or just me, whereas now I'm a professional business working with businesses and people, and that kind of understanding how businesses are run helped. I also found the extra learning as well, so, like, listening to books, all that kind of stuff would help motivate me and keep me focused. So kind of just, there's been a few which I've been, okay, I could do that, I can see how that works. Cool, I take stress off, doesn't matter too much. You are doing what you're meant to be doing. On
our conversation before, you mentioned about having a mentor that passed away. So was that someone in the Kent Foundation, or was that prior to that?
Yeah, that's prior. So when I started training, I was at the job. I'm still at the gym now, the gym which this guy passed away from. But when I started training, he was the owner of the gym. He was a joint co-owner of this gym. And I suppose for 5-6 years, whilst I've been in Maidstone and training, before I went to Australia and started working a bit more in Sevenoaks, I was at that gym working and learning and just being around these people. And he was a friend, and he was also somebody which you would learn from, and he would help you program your workouts and all this kind of stuff. And between them, they were kind of mentors and people which I would learn from and be the person I am within my physical health journey now. And 2 years ago, a few months before I started Future You, he committed suicide. And I think that has really emphasised my journey on the mental health aspect of this business, because probably I didn't understand it, or I knew it happened, and I knew mental health was a thing, but maybe I was a little bit ignorant to it, is a word I want to use, ignorant to how it can just get on top of you and it can overload you. Whereas beforehand I was just a bit blasé, I would just go through life being a happy person, and not experienced it. Although I knew it was there, my dad went through it when he broke up with my mum and struggled financially. So I knew what it was, but I didn't really understand it until maybe I grew up and I was an adult, and then seeing another adult do it, which I was close to, I think I began to to become more mindful for what mental health was.
On that, so that's someone in your life that's a mentor to you, that's guiding you, that's helping you out in the journey you're on, and you're sort of seeing them as someone that steps above you. And then you're in that experience, and they're well, with, as you say, like you know them, but you're not aware of like their internal struggles. So they commit suicide. So what is that experience in terms of, I don't know, seeing someone that steps above you, that's guiding you, helping you ascertain the goals you want to achieve because they've been there, they've done that, and then to see them that they're going through that and yet they've ended it all for themselves. So how did that impact you?
Do you know what? What's tough? Firstly, I'm going to make something clear, just because I think it's misunderstood. When we talk about suicide, it sounds terrible, but we use the word completed suicide, just because committed makes it sound like we committed a sin.
Oh, okay.
And so we use the just so I don't want to be an arsehole. But I just thought
I never knew that. I never knew that. So I've learned something.
I didn't know that, to be fair, until I did the mental health first aid course.
Oh, okay.
And so I just thought I'd just passed a bit of wisdom on.
Thank you.
But if I'm honest, the guy which took his own life for me 2 years ago, at that point I had not been in that gym for a while. I was working there when I got back from Australia. I did about 2-3 years there, and I'd moved on, so I hadn't actually been there for a while. But this guy, not only was he, obviously I was a mentor and it taught me a lot of stuff. The reason why he was more of a mentor was because of his his personality and his attitude. And this is what really threw me most, is that everybody you spoke to said he was the happiest guy in the world. He was always bubbly, he's always joking, he was always kind of upbeat. I think we knew there was a sadness and a loneliness with him, but he was always happy. He was always there to make jokes, or he was with people which he was close to or were friends with. I think that for me was one of the hardest things. That's what really opened my eyes up to it most. It wasn't somebody sad. It was somebody which was happy. It was somebody which was really fun. Always had the banter. It always gave you crap. It was like one of those kind of your normal sports team kind of feelings when you're in that kind of group. When you're at the gym, you never felt sad. You always felt, this is a bit of banter, I'm looking forward to going to the gym. And that's what you had from him. I think that's what shocked me most.
You said obviously there it's made you more aware of mental health and other people suffering, or just, I don't know, has it helped you identify certain characteristics? Because like where you mentioned there about it's someone that's very happy, was bubbly, always cracking jokes. So my own experiences with people that I've known personally or people I've looked up to in my life that have completed suicide, I'm learning. So people that have completed suicide, they similar things. So it was someone, in terms of my personal connection to someone, was a assistant at school, but they would skip around the corridors, say hello to everyone. Literally, they would walk past and make your day. They'd step in a room and the atmosphere would just liven up. Just their sheer presence brought everybody up a notch. And yet they were the person that was going home and really suffering, and they attempted suicide, and they weren't, I don't know if you say weren't successful, but what the terminology is, they didn't do it. And then they had to go through a recovery stage, and then months later they then completed. And so, but that's just similar to what you're saying there, just a huge eye-opener to say, like, sometimes it's the happiest people and we're never aware of what people are going through once they're behind closed doors. So has it helped you identify that with people or be able to connect better?
If I'm really honest, no. Just because that's tough. I think even with people which, I suppose, that's their personalities, and that kind of happiness makes you think that's their personality. I suppose the only way in my head I can make sense is if they're really happy, there's got to be times when they're really sad, because we can't just live through a balance of just being always happy, because that's impossible for us, right? We're never happy the whole time. Unfortunately, it'd be bloody fantastic. But unfortunately we aren't. I think there is an element of that, but if being able to recognise it in people, and unless it's things they say, I couldn't tell from their exterior, unless they kind of begin to say, I'm not happy, or begin to make kind of maybe jokes behind suicide or behind I shouldn't be here, doesn't make a difference, that kind of terminology, then no, I probably would struggle to recognise it from a happy human being, or a perceived happy human being. I shouldn't say that.
Because you mentioned before, like going through that and like seeing that happen to someone close to you, that sort of led you on a journey of, because obviously, as you said, you was going through as a personal trainer, you're there to help people physically, but that was it. Am I right in saying that led you on a more, rather than just helping people physically, it's about helping people emotionally, mentally, and physically as a whole encompassing? So is that sort of what gave you the inspiration for Employees Health, or was that a component of it?
Definitely a component. What that did is put the link between the two. That really put the nail in the coffin for me. It put between, and this, I say I put nails in the coffin, and this what baffles me, and I really struggle with when I talk about physical health and the effects of physical activity, is I always talk about the importance of people doing exercise. This guy was a personal trainer. He was in the gym. He did activity. He was a strong athlete. So my head goes, that can't just be it. There's got to be more to it. So yes, what that did was go, okay, physical health is what I tried to help people with. Talk about training. And for me, it was creating enjoyment around exercise. That's partly one of my key things around lifestyle, is putting enjoyment around the exercise you do. And that was, as a personal trainer, I might not have made tons of transformations, but I made consistent, healthy people because they were in the gym consistently, because they enjoyed it. I made it enjoyable. But then I added, this is why it's enjoyable. We connecting that with the mental health and why it's so important for mental health. And sometimes you can have a crap day in the gym, but you got in there and you afterwards you feel better, or you've had a crap day beforehand, or wherever it is, you've gone to the gym, release some endorphins, and you actually walk out more motivated, more happier, and more likely to kind of pass that positivity on. Yeah,
definitely. I can definitely echo what you're saying there. Just in my own lifestyle, adapting or creating a lifestyle where I do, like, so when I wake up, one of the first things I do is just like a quick workout. But having that routine and every morning just doing something, even if it's 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, just having a little something that gets you up out of bed, you do something physical, it gives you the energy for the day, just mentally and physically, obviously, but just in everything, physically and mentally, emotionally, it just gives you so much more life, I guess. You just feel more motivated, you feel better for it, and as well, starting a day with it, just what better way to start your day than just quick workout, whether it's a few press-ups, yoga, whatever you do, just to get yourself in the mood ready for the day and to achieve the goal that you've got for the day or for the month.
I think it's recognising when you're going to best to do it as well. Like, some people need sleep. Like, I woke up this morning at 8 o'clock just because I needed my sleep. I didn't go. I was going to go for a walk. Weather was terrible. I was like, actually, no, I'm going to go for a walk later on. I'm going to get in the gym later on as well. I train normally in the afternoon, but I know it's there, and I know that's going to help. My focus for me is getting my work done in the morning and get my training done in the evening. So it depends on how you set your focus is. For me, the gym and the exercise is just a habit now. It's just there. I know I'm going to do it. Now it's just making the habit of the work, making sure I'm doing all that kind of stuff. And being a personal trainer, you can imagine what our routines can be like with our clients, because they want to train in the morning. So we have to work around that. But yeah, I completely agree. I know you're a big fan of this, David. Get in the morning, get it done, and it changes your motivation. And what I always say to clients, if you don't like it, don't like doing exercise yet, let's say you use the word yet, do it in the morning. Because you can't talk yourself out of it. Because that's the biggest thing about the afternoon. You've got 5-6 hours to go, I don't want to do this. Whereas you get it done half an hour after you wake up, you can't talk yourself out of it. It's just habit. It's going to happen.
I guess it's interesting what you say about making exercise fun and enjoyable, because when you're starting exercise, it's the opposite of that. You know, I'm a runner, so when I started running, for the first maybe even 6 months, it was a chore. It was something I had to get through. But now it's like almost like meditation for me to go out on a run. I find it really enjoyable. So, do you have like a tip to get people from that stage of it being hard and not wanting to do it into something that's part of your life and something that you actually look forward to?
For somebody which doesn't do any exercise and doesn't like it at all, it's got to be an intrinsic goal. And we might go, I see it all the time, and this is. But it's not going to work long term. So creating a long term goal is tougher, and I'll explain that in a second. But if you say, for example, you're going to go on holiday to somewhere where there's sun, you've got a goal where you know you want to look good for. Whether that's, okay, I just want to lose a dress size, or whatever it is, or whether it look a bit better. Your goal's there, so you're going to stick focus to it. To make a longer term goal, unless you're really keen on it and like it, and I think this happens afterwards maybe, there's got to be like a reason for it. So it's figuring out, it's normally, I see it all the time, is somebody's had like a life experience where they've had a heart attack or a stroke or a mini something which has scared them, or a scare in life. They go, actually, I've got to do something, and that's now my intrinsic motivation to do something every day, or to do something. So it's just finding whatever that intrinsic goal is, and making that a big enough goal, and making the habits you create small enough to make it prolonged and forever as such, because that's the goal, right? I'm not going to train until I'm 30, 35. I'm going to carry on training until I can't move out of my wheelchair anymore. That's the idea, right? We don't want to do it just for a year. So it's about kind of creating an intrinsic motivation, which could just be a holiday, and that holiday's created a lifelong, a bit of a goal or a habit, a healthy habit to keep you doing it, I guess. But it's tough. It's tough for somebody to if you don't like doing it, to carry on doing something you don't like. So there needs to be an intrinsic motivation behind doing it.
I totally get that. So I do a lot of races, and luckily I'm at the point now where I can go out running and not have a goal in mind. But it's still tough. Like now I've been running for 10 years, and because there's no races at the moment, having that discipline and that focus of still running 4 days a week is really hard. So I guess sometimes it's, once you've completed your goal, don't just go, right, that's it, I'm done. You got to think, okay, what can I do next with this?
100%.
I think the moral is that once lockdown's finally over and we can all socialise, is book a holiday. So you've got that holiday, you've got that goal.
Yeah, definitely book a holiday. Yeah, I think I'm on that. I'm with you there. I think it is tough, and I suppose that's probably the benefit of personal trainers. Like I very much understand what my role in a client's life is. I'm there to turn up to motivate someone to do exercise, which doesn't want to do it, which sometimes can be really hard. Sometimes it can be weekly, really hard. To make sure they move correctly and don't injure themselves, to make sure they have fun. Sometimes you just got maybe, or even train like a training partner. Just try and find something which is going to keep you accountable and keep you motivated, I guess.
So I want to come on to that in terms of going from a personal trainer, having that realization, and going into employees' health, where you're then taking the physical of, like, obviously working as a personal trainer, and then trying to bring in the mental well-being and the emotional well-being. So how is it you went on that? How did that process come about? How did you go from going, right, I'm a personal trainer, I'm now going to have employees' health, I'm going to help mental well-being, I'm going to help emotional well-being. How did you build that team and find the right people to go and start that company? And
I started the company by myself, prior to Employee Self. I started the previous company by myself. And I presume it was just after speaking to people in companies and figuring out, okay, and obviously learning from the experience I had through suicide around mental health and the effects, and being probably more open-minded to it. And if you've met the people which are on my team, you'll understand this straight away. The people on my team inspire me, and they motivate me, and instantly you go, actually, this person needs to be part of what we're doing because of how great they are and because of the energy they bring and the knowledge they have. It was just it's just an automatic thing for me to go, actually, we need to have you here doing this because you know what you're talking about, and you're instantly interested in making a change. And you can see that within 5 minutes of talking to this person.
when you said there about your team, and I completely understand you there, where you say about having the people around you that inspire you. So I think a key point here will be, how did you identify and find those people that inspire you? How did you go through it? Because it's the same, like whether it's part of your team where you work together or it's employing people, how did you go about finding the right people and making sure that if they come on a journey with you, they are going to inspire you? It's not just a short-term thing, it's like long-term, they're going to help you, they're going to motivate you, and those around you, the clients you bring on board. Is there a way that you're certain, or is there a risk involved, or have you had bad experiences with that?
I've never had bad experiences. For me, I don't go searching. It's the connections I make. And once I've made the connections, I will then either reach out. And if I've seen, I won't just put a job up for sale. I will kind of communicate with somebody, connect with somebody and see what they're doing, and then kind of contact them directly. So I reach to them rather than them trying to reach to me, I guess. And if it, for example, Sally, I actually did her mental health first aid course. She ran it, she was the instructor. And it was something I was kind of interested in anyway, maybe looking to do for us. But just after her course, I knew it was a definite. So I knew, okay, we have to have this conversation. And thankfully, she was really happy, wanted to work with me and wanted to work with Employees Health, because she could see, probably could see the same from me, I guess, I hope, is that desire to help and make changes.
Obviously, find the right team. So then, has that given you, in having Employees Health, where you have got those packages where you are able to help companies through all aspects in terms of physical, emotional, mental, does that give you more confidence, or does it give you more belief in your mission of what you're doing? Do you feel better about it?
Yes, I suppose it does. And I suppose the best way to explain this is because of the team I've got and what the guys can do. I believe Employees Health is always going to survive, and I believe Employees Health is on to a winner because of the people I have with me. Because I know their services, I know what they can do, and I know how great this can be. So that really helps me, makes me feel comfortable with what our services are. Very much one for picking up, trying to create the best thing I can. So this is with Employees Health. I'm trying to give companies the best thing, I guess. And I feel like, yes, the guys in my team will do that. From
a client perspective, as a head of HR or as a CEO or just as a manager managing a huge team of people, how, as that individual with that responsibility, I mean, you might have the biased answer if everybody needs it, but so I'm a manager or CEO managing all my team. How would I sort of look and identify whether or not this is something I need? How do I know that, I need to get Employees Health in to help out here because X? What is that I need to look out for?
I think firstly, the question should be asking themselves is, are we doing anything at all? Because it becomes now important that companies are doing something. There is research shows the increase within productivity levels. There's research that shows reduction in absenteeism and presenteeism. So implementing these things into a workplace not only does it threefold on those aspects, but then also does it by improving the environment of where you're working, which will hopefully help people's motivation to work for the company and work hard for the company. So there is benefits for the employer, as well as giving benefits to the employee. I always live off this saying as an employer, you have two responsibilities. First of all, make sure the company's running successfully. Okay, and we all know that as an employer, we will make sure our company's running successfully. Secondly, is to look after employees, because they are the people which make your company run successfully.
As an employer, would you say there's something, because if somebody's listening and they're a small business owner, they've taken on their first employee, or they've got sort of 4 or 5 employees, they might be thinking, I'm way too small to start thinking about that. That's something that when you've got 40 employees, 50 employees, that's when you start thinking about everybody's well-being. But as a small business, it's just not feasible. Would you agree with that, or do you think, no, it's something that even with one employee, you want to be thinking about their well-being?
If you're a small company with 5+, it's still relevant, although maybe not as feasible to employ some things into your workplace, but it's still relevant, and that could just be constant connection, constant relationship building with your employees, constantly making sure they're okay, and if they could do anything or if they need anything. You might not provide a workshop, because normally a workshop would be for 10, 20 people, but you might go, actually, here is Richard Turner, here's Employees Health, go and jump on their mental health first aid course they're running, or go and jump on this workshop or webinar that they're putting on for people to go and learn. So it's a continuous education. Although, yes, as you said, it can be tougher for smaller employees, but there are things employers can do to help.
Excellent. Because that's, like, linking on to that, is something that I, myself in my own experience with my own company, is where I have a company that's at a size that's looking at myself obviously full-time, but then apart from that, it's 4 people full-time, 4 people part-time. So I'm in a position where I think that I want to try and find things to do, whether that's even just little things like having regular team meetings and talking about how we're all doing, what could be better. But what advice would you give to someone that's in that position? So my position is, obviously, as I said, sort of 4 people full-time, 4 part-time. what could I do in terms of recognizing that I'm helping my team, or what would help my team if I haven't got the budget to do these workshops or to do a course or anything, but what could I do that's little small steps that can prepare me so that when I am at a point, because obviously I'm time restricted with their diaries, because obviously the second I take them out of their work and get them to do some sort of course or training for half a day, it's then, if I do that with the whole team, that's then a big chunk of revenue that I'm missing out on, which as a small business could have a huge detriment. So what advice would you give in someone in that position if they've got a little bit of a budget, not a lot of time?
My questions would, first off, I always pay it back because I think it's important that it comes from you. I could give you suggestions, I guess, but it'd be more of, what are your employees like? What support do they need? Because there's no point giving them meditation or mindfulness bits if they're not going to buy into that. But it could be really beneficial if you give them physical activity, because it might not be within their working hours, but giving them the ability to go to a yoga class or join up to do some classes throughout the week. That investment into their well-being outside of work will help their well-being whilst at work. So giving them the good support outside of work, or even in work, you could go, okay, here's a longer lunch, you can go and do a class. But then also my question would be, okay, so if you were to take a half a day off of work to educate your people around well-being, I'll use the word well-being rather than just a section of well-being, could that time possibly lost in revenue, maybe that might be regained through better absenteeism, productivity, knowledge around their health and well-being, figuring out, sitting at a desk and recovering from injuries, all this kind of stuff. Could that actually be more beneficial in the long run, rather than actually maybe a half a day where you could lose some revenue? Or you could even split the teams up and do half working, half not, whatever it is. It's just figuring out, it's working with the person you're communicating with to figure out what the best plan of action is for that company.
So as you say there, looking at your individual team and them as individuals, what would benefit them the most? And as you say, not necessarily taking the whole team out of work, but splitting it. But
yeah.
So would you, with a small, or would it be different? Would you advise with a small team, with a bigger team, to look at things individually? So 2 examples, me with 4 people full time. Would you advise to look at it as a one-on-one thing? So maybe just one person at a time, take them out and say, look, go spend the afternoon, do something X, Y, Z, whatever it is, and establish what would help them, or do it as a 4 as a whole? But then how differently would you advise if it's a team of 40, 100? Would you say, no, get big group together, or individually? What would you say would work best, or is it different for small teams and big teams?
I think the difficulty is with your team of 4, you can invest, let's say, a personal training session in, which would be like a month-long program, whatever it is. You can invest more individually. When you've got a team of 40 or 50, the individual stuff becomes expensive, or a lot more expensive, because you're now providing it for 50 to 100 people. Whereas, so you have that benefit to be able to personally supply and support each individual, whereas a company might not have that ability. What the company has is the ability to go, okay, we're going to put on a few more things which might provide, but the key part is the individuals are still individual. So you have to figure out what the individuals need, and that could come through, or what the teams need. So you look at individuals and then put that into a team and go, okay, your company needs this, and it comes from support, and it's being able to help the company provide that.
Would you say there's a line to draw? So thinking about on the subject of benevolent business, you want to create a great team of people, and obviously it's important finding the right people. Do you think if you're trying to help your team out, say, I don't know, I'm trying to think of what people would be thinking in this scenario. If you've got you've got a team of people, 10, 20, whatever, but there's 1 or 2 that you just think, no matter what I do with them, it's not going to help. They've just got these bad life habits, whether it's the way that they spend their money, they're always moaning about their wages, it's never enough, or they talk about time and how they spend their time, or just their eating habits are just atrocious, they're not eating right, and it's just impacting them. And you can sit as the employer, as the manager, or even the colleagues, or even their colleagues are coming to you and saying, is that something where, do you feel that anyone can be helped, or do you think there's some people that can't be helped?
Everybody can be helped. It's, as we spoke about earlier on, it's finding their motivation. And you touched on a point where they're spending their money terribly. Why are they spending their money terribly? Is it education? They don't know how to save or manage, or is it the fact, or you can compare it to the food, and they're eating terribly and their habits around their health or their nutrition is poor. There's always something there. but there's also got to be a motivation behind that. So it's being able to, everybody can be helped, it's just figuring out how. But it's hard, and I think it's hard for companies to create buy-in. I think that's the second part of it. How do you get an employee to buy into their own well-being? It's good for a company. So, for example, if you were to buy in for it to something for your employees, but actually one of your employees didn't want to do any of it, how do you make that buy-in for that person? At least you're trying to support them. How do you get that employee to buy in? How do you help that person? Because ultimately it comes from them, right?
Do you think there's a sort of boundary line to work with here? So if somebody's listening and thinking, yeah, I've got a team of people, I want to help them out, and then you start having those conversations, and say there is someone on the team that maybe their eating habits are bad and it's affecting their life, because especially if somebody's in a physical role, if they're eating bad, it's going to affect their performance, and they're going to start to diminish in what they're able to produce as a workload. So in that, if you start getting involved with your team and talking about some more wellbeing activities and coming together and doing things, whether it's individually or as a group, do you think there's a boundary in terms of how much you should get involved to someone? So say there is that person that's diminishing in terms of the quality of work they're putting out, but then when you actually sit down and chat with them, you realise it's something that is completely out of your realm of expertise, and even to a point that you feel nervous in getting someone such as yourself to come in and help with that. It's like, I don't know, I'm just trying to think of some bad case scenario where they breakdown, or whether it's just something that they just don't seem to be interested at all, but the workload is diminishing, something needs to be done, but they just, I don't know if I've articulated it properly. But
I think I understand. So you're talking from a case of a HR, and you're in the company, you're spoken to this person, and you've recognised, and you've had that conversation, your workload's decreasing, your quality of work's decreasing. We want to support you. There could be the support, and I think obviously the HR, unfortunately, you have to have those uncomfortable conversations and say, actually, we want to do this and help you within this. Then, as you said, everybody needs support. Everybody needs to be helped somehow. Let's figure out how they can do it. They could be reaching out to myself, and it might not be me having a conversation with this human being. It might be our nutritionist. That's the idea of what I'm trying to achieve, is being able to guide someone through that, either if it's a one-to-one support or if it's through education. There is a aspect of you have to look after your staff. Yeah, and you have to try to support them. There is a level of that. Because
I like talking in my own experience, so I feel like I want to create a great company. I want to have a work environment where people feel they're valued, they do really great work, they're passionate about it, they all feel that it's more than just a job, it's a career, but it's more than that. It's, I don't know, to put a cliche on it, that it's like a whole family, we're all here together and we're all improving each other's lives, we're creating a great impact on the environment, on the community. But I feel like there's a boundary line where I think, yes, I want to do that, I want to have those conversations, I want to help them, I want to be able to give them benefits to being part of the company, but at the end of the day, this is their work, they've got their own personal life, and I need to realise there's a boundary there, or do you think, no, you can get involved? And obviously or is it more a case of just being open and honest and saying, this is what I'm thinking, guys, are you all happy with this? Should we get involved in this? Or do you think, no, look, give me a break, like I'll come here to work, I want to go home and have some time? But I suppose that's the battle I have, is wanting to create a benevolent business that everybody feels great about, but then if you are doing, I don't know, like Cake Club every Sunday and the team barbecue every Friday and then team activity every Saturday, like going bowling, is there a limit to understand?
Yeah, I definitely think there's a balance. And you're probably you're kind of the same as me. Like, you want to shout about and create and help everybody as much as possible, and which is fantastic, which I love. But I think there's definitely a balance, and I think if you are continuously trying to help, but I think you would recognise those things in your one-to-one meetings, I'm guessing. So when you have your conversations and your one-to-one meetings with your team, you might be able to pick up on things then, and hopefully they open up and you've created a relationship with these people which they can open up and say, look, actually, I would love some help, I'm struggling with this. And if they're not doing that, then hopefully that means they're in a good place. But if you're putting these things on to then support them around that, then you're kind of covering it from a few different angles as well. They got the ability to learn free of will, but then also they got the support from you as a one-to-one to figure out whether they do need any external needs and helps.
On the subject of that, within your own life, Richard, if, like we talked about earlier, when you've got those business problems and by sharing them with other people within your network, how much that can help. But with your own life and your own challenges, have you found that you feel that there's a boundary there in terms of approaching your network or the people around you in talking about your own personal problems? You talked about as well, we touched on the ups and the downs. So when it comes to your own self individually, a problem you're having, whether it's whatever it is, emotional, mental, do you feel that going to, I don't know, do you have specific people for different things, or is it like you'll just speak to anyone? Or I don't know, do you feel that if you've got a personal problem, it should be to your personal family, or it's no, open it up to the business connections you've got, have those personal connections, and it will help the relationship? Or what are your thoughts there?
I'm very open. So like I would openly say, if to friends and family, or to peers, to anybody, that what's going on is okay. I'm okay with saying business is hard. I'm struggling doing this. I don't mind doing that. I don't mind doing that. Where I would struggle with personally, it's like any man, I suppose, unfortunately, is maybe kind of saying, actually, this is the reason why I'm sad, or this is the reason why I'm struggling. That's probably what I would keep to my family. But even then, sometimes I still keep that within, knowing that I can knowing that hopefully I can get through that, and just knowing that this is just a feeling. Sometimes it's on top of me, sometimes it's not, and actually hopefully I can manage that myself because I have the skills to. Well, unfortunately, not everybody does. But yeah, there's definitely some things I can just open up and talk about. Some things are more personal to. Not only do I not think people need to know that information, but I also think sometimes it is just for family to help you out, and they understand your situation a bit more, and they understand your personality and why that could be the reason, and they support.
Because there's one thing I want to come on to, where from our conversation we had the other day, is in terms of your own personal life, being very focused on business, and like every day you're talking about getting up, it's focusing on that, your own personal goals, your business goals. But coming of an age where your family's opinion of what will be best for you is talking about find that dream partner, get married, settle down, have children. And so like what we touched on there, the pressures of that and how that impacts you.
Yeah, it's a fun one, isn't it? I don't know. I'm a single guy, so I get this from my family the whole time. Are you dating? Have you found anybody? All this kind of stuff, which obviously they're really interested in. And one of the things my mum said to me the other day was just, I don't mind. Like, I know you're going to be okay. If you don't have one, it'd just be nice for you to have somebody. It'd be nice for you to find somebody which might help or might make your life a bit better, or wherever it is. And because I have been very single for a very long time, I don't see it as needing to have somebody there. It could be quite nice. I'm very blasé about the relationship side of things. Just because I'm kind of a happy person, I'm very focused, and I think it has to really suit me for me to be committed to it. So you do obviously get the external pressures from family, just because I think that's just the way we are as people. We see relationships and girlfriends make you happy, and I'm hoping when I find the person I am going to settle down with, that I will be happy. Otherwise, there's no point being in that relationship. But yeah, it's definitely you do get pressures from family to do different things, I guess.
Yeah, I think you're right there. Like, obviously, you'd think that your family, or you'd hope that your family is obviously just looking out for you and thinking the best thing for you is to, as you say, is to find someone and settle down, and that's what, I don't know, life happiness is. That's what achievement in life is. But so, what is it that, in terms of you saying like happily being single, and regardless of what age you're coming to, and like thinking, yeah, if I find someone, I find someone. But what is it? Because I think for a lot of people, being single isn't always, I don't know. I think a lot of people, like, in complete honesty, like as myself, in times that I've been single, I felt like there is an absence there, or there's an essence of I've not got a partner, so therefore no one's interested. So what is it that's helped you, or makes you, what is it that makes you so content in that? Is it like being busy, or is it having focus on your own goals, your own mission? But yeah, from someone listening that is single, thinking like, damn, I'm single, like what's wrong with me? What is it that can help them think, no, I'm single, I'm fine, I crack on with this and I'm happy?
That's actually a really good question. I guess the only way is, I don't know how bad this is going to sound if I say it out loud, but the ability to not, the fact I don't have a girlfriend means there's no other external pressure or stress behind having to do other things apart from take away from the things I enjoy doing. So I look at it from a personal and a positive aspect. I like the fact that I can spend more time trying to improve employee stuff. I can spend more time going to the gym, because there are times which I probably would lose over having a girlfriend, I guess. If I have a girlfriend, I could have to maybe limit the amount of time I can spend in the gym. I could have to limit what I'm doing with the business, or all these other kind of social elements which could pop up. I would miss because I'm doing it. So rather than kind of going up, and I still get the times when I go, oh, actually, it'd be really nice to have a girlfriend now, because I'm going to a wedding, or I'm going to my friends and they're all doing this, or I'm quite lonely, I'm sat indoors. So you do get them times, but I suppose I'm so kind of used to that that I look at it from another side of things. I've got the ability to really work on myself and focus as myself rather than somebody else's stress and drama and all that kind of stuff, and their kind of stress, because I've got enough of it to deal with myself.
So on that, when you say about obviously being able to focus on yourself, do you think and your own goals, your own mission, your own business, and having that time, as you said, like going to the gym four days a week probably isn't very viable for someone that's in a relationship unless they're doing it with their partner. But do you think there will come a time when you think it will become a priority, or do you think it'll always be a case of, no, I'm focusing on what I'm doing, I'm living my dream, and if someone comes along, they'll come along? Do you think there's a point on what would be the change maker there? What would make you switch?
I'm not sure anything's going to make me switch. What I see my relationship being is something to add on to it. I don't see a switch in that. Somebody's not going to come into my life and all of a sudden I'm not going to be interested in exercise or going to the gym. The person's going to come into my life and either come and add into that and join me within that journey, or they're going to be the add-on at the end. I don't seem, and this is maybe really selfish, but I don't see somebody coming in and all of a sudden I'm going to drink alcohol during the week, or I'm going to not go to the gym 4 times a week, because they're the things I know benefit me. So they'll come in and either come to the gym with me, or understand that I'm not somebody which is going to go off and do these things I don't want to do. So they add to my current situation, or they're not in my current situation. So
your important point there for anyone in that situation is to focus on, in a partner, is the important aspect is that they complement your lifestyle, and that it's not about, well, I suppose there's elements in relationships to compromise, and obviously depending on what your lifestyle is, but you've got to have that element of compromise, but the ultimate is that you complement each other, so that the passions you have, the drive you have, and their drives, their passions link up, and therefore are better by being together, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
I think that's probably where I've struggled, if I'm honest with you, because it's all about honesty and it's all about kind of talking about mental health, and where we probably struggle is that I'm not actually ready to buy into somebody else's. Which is probably me not ready to compromise for them as such. I'm still very much myself. The word is selfish. I'm selfish with the fact that I want it to be on my terms more so than I do. I'm ready to open up with it. And that could make me sound terrible over soon.
It's honest. Like, it's a lot of people do just rush into relationships because they want to be with someone and end up not being happy and splitting up. Whereas you're being honest, you're not in a place in your life where that's something that you really want right now. It's not something you can give. So I think it's a good thing. I don't think it's selfish at all.
It's definitely changed. I mean, I'm definitely I'm a bit more relaxed, and I understand that I do have to give a bit more. And the focus has changed. And if a relationship does come along now, I'm definitely more open to it. And I have had relationships which, but the reason I probably have failed is because I wasn't ready to give in to the things I wanted to. And that's probably why they failed. It's more of me just kind of not really listening to myself, I guess. Or being honest enough to say that to them. I think that's probably the hardest part. If you look at the men's side of the relationship, is not honest. We're not honest enough. And let's use the word man enough to be able to say that to somebody and to make them upset, because I feel like we're very conscious of upsetting somebody more so than we are just being honest with them and ourselves.
So what would your advice be to someone in a situation where they feel, I guess, to somebody that's living in your shoes, but they haven't found that contentment, they're paying too much attention to what their family's saying. They're stressing them out. They're causing anxiety. They're thinking, God, I'm getting older and older. I haven't found a partner. I'm single. What advice would you say to someone in that situation to help to enable them to find contentment, to relax, to stop feeling the pressure and just find what they want to do in life? What advice would you give?
Oh, good question. I'm loving these questions. I would say the first thing you should do is figure out the kind of person you want to be. I would say figuring out, write it down, the kind of person you want to be, and the things you want to achieve in life. We only live once, right? So excluding the fact you're single, and it might be one of those things might be to have children, set a family up, but if you've got yourself in a situation where you are happy within yourself and you're driven within the external factors and the kind of person you want to be and the things you want to do, that normally comes along because you're not focusing on that and stressing yourself over that. So I would definitely suggest looking at lifestyle, person you are, and trying to figure out who you want to be and how you want to be that person, I guess.
Great advice, I think, there. So I want to come on to employees' health, and we've looked a lot into the past and how you've come along your journey. So what's in store for the future? How do you see employees' health further impacting locally, the nation, the world? How is it going to benefit all of us?
It's a tough question because of the uncertainty behind coronavirus. But the one thing coronavirus has done is recognised the need for people to look after their health and well-being more. Mm-hmm. It's shown people that the key to all life isn't money. The key to life is health and well-being, their own health and sanity. So I think now employers and people in company have recognised that. So I see us being able to help more people. And I'd love for the future to involve apps, the ability to work in companies on systems and all that kind of smart, snazzy kind of stuff, so to be able to support more outside of work. But I definitely see us being in companies, helping educate people, and just being at the front of people's front of companies' support mechanisms for making sure help people living their best life. There's many companies similar to me out there, and I'm not going to say we're the best of the best because we all have our own positives and positive strengths. One thing we are focused on is just being able to help as many people as we can, and we're kind of down to earth, and we understand that there are struggles. So it's just being able to support as best we can and to help companies. That's for me the hit there. Helping HR figure out what it is they need.
So on the subject of the pandemic, where you said obviously there's a lot of uncertainty there. So conversations I've had with some clients, they've just, in discussing with other business owners, talked a lot about people working from home now, whether that's a team of 5, a team of 100, a team of 1,000, is in that situation. As a business owner, obviously you want to make sure your team's all right and you care for them, but on the other, and you've got that thing as well with, you've got a company, it's been running, it's been profitable with everybody in the office, they're now at home. What advice would you give to someone there thinking about their staff's well-being? So for example, one chat I had with a business owner, he's got 100 staff, he's panicking about those that sat at home not really do anything, thinking, oh, I'll turn the laptop on, I'll just chuck Netflix on and I'll just type away at something while I'm watching the latest films. But then also thinking about, on the other hand, he's got a couple of people that he's thinking and he's worried that they generally are becoming clinically depressed from being stuck indoors, unable to go out because we're all in lockdown or because they're having to shield for whatever reason. So how would someone in that position help themselves in relaxing? So like the conversation I had is that if your numbers are up and you're still profiting as a company, then do you need to worry about 1 or 2 people that are slacking? Or it might, like as an overall, but if you're still doing well, but also if those people are slacking, maybe it could be a situation where you need to help them, or it's a situation where they've got a 3-year-old running around and literally they cannot get their work done. So what advice would you give there in now a lot of business owners having to manage from a computer screen with everybody working from home?
I think it's about relationship building. That to me is more of a HR issue. Mm-hmm. For example, if that's the case and there's people which are struggling to either be at home and manage kids and all that kind of stuff. I think that comes down to what communications you're having from a HR. So your weekly meetings with these people, or your monthly meetings, your check-ins to make sure that they're doing okay. It's just the general, okay, how are you doing? How are you finding working from home? How are you finding life at the moment? Finding that out might give you a really clear indication of why they're struggling. And if it's not that, and they say they're doing okay, then they're the supports which need to be in place. Mental health first aiders, the supports. Then that's when employees' health can really benefit and help. But we all know, sitting in front of the computers, it's hard now to jump on webinars. Like, people aren't as keen to sit in front of a computer because they've been sitting in front of a computer all day, every day.
Yeah.
If they're going to communicate with a colleague, they've got to do it via Zoom or all this kind of stuff. So it is a tough one, and it's just trying to figure out what's going to be the best next steps.
The first step, always just communicate, just speak to them, ask them the questions. The
biggest thing I've found so far, and the biggest problem is going to be now, is the amount of movement we're doing. Working from home is fantastic because it might give you more time, but what it doesn't do is give you a commute. It doesn't give you steps. It doesn't get you off your chair. It doesn't break a relationship between your bedroom and your sleeping area, or it doesn't break a relationship between your home and work. So there's that big disconnect, and it's been able now to get people away from that, get people step challenge, get people in teams doing exercise, get people doing more activity, because that's the thing they're missing.
It sounds like almost that, especially with the pandemic and how we'll come out of it, is that the workplace or companies' responsibilities will be more than just employing people and paying them a salary and making sure that they're hitting their KPIs and such. It's more about a company's responsibility ultimately will be to create an environment that looks after their employees more so, especially from what we've gone through. And as you say, if we are all working from home, there needs to be steps in place to ensure that we're keeping healthy, we're exercising, we're talking, we're thinking about our own mental health, our physical health, and all these aspects, because otherwise it is just going to be, there's going to almost sort of a second pandemic of just mental health just erupting, where we've all suffered, and just things where we're cracking on each day, but we just don't realise the detriment it can have, just being sat in an office on a chair all day, every day, locked in your four walls.
Yeah, there's going to be a massive initiative around health and wellbeing coming out of this, and how proactive companies are being, and you'll see that within you'll see that within companies, but what you'll see it most in is where people want to work.
I look forward to that becoming a big part of the world, and that we'll all start to look after each other more, hopefully, and as companies feel more responsible. I want to end on a question we always ask. So, on the topic of benevolent business and making the world a better place, what is one thing that occurs within humanity that you would hope would be a thing of the past in the future? So one thing that will be eradicated from humanity.
That's a good question. You could have given me a bit more of a chance to think about this one.
That's why I never let anyone know.
I suppose it'd be quite nice for us not to be so judgmental, and then for us not to be so judgmental of everything we do, with a big emphasis on maybe getting rid of social media.
Really?
Just because I think that's part of where our judgments come from. But we got a lot of history which is affecting a lot of people's judgments. So that might be my answer. It's a good question.
So you'd like to eradicate social media?
Do you know what? I think the world would be a better place without social media.
Yeah, I agree.
But judgment, I think if you got rid of judgment, people's judgment, and being able to be non-judgmental, social media could survive.
Yeah, because I think, I won't get into that topic, but social media eradicating it. I think it can exaggerate. It exaggerates everything. So things that are good become amazing, and things that are bad become evil. So, but I like that answer, judgment, to eradicate the concept of judgment, so that we all live open to ideas and open to that everybody has their individuality and their own unique features. Excellent.
There's no judgment behind people's choices, and people's backgrounds and all that lot. And what somebody's choices is their choice. The reason they like it is because of their choice.
Well, thank you, Richard. Thank you for coming on. It's been an honour. It's been a pleasure, and it's been great to talk to you.
Yeah, ditto. It's been great chatting to you properly and having this very in-depth, honest chat.
No, it's really good.
Cheers,
It's been more in depth than I'd imagined. I think we've touched on a lot there that I hope a lot of people would help from listening to.
Hopefully.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
So there we go. That was Richard Turner. And I don't know about you, Dave, but I thought that was another great conversation. And because I had, in that conversation, when I originally spoke to Richard, I suppose I had a little bit of a concern where I think with what we want to create with this podcast, the conversations we want to have, we're really trying to find that extraordinary tale of people that have, well, we've had it in other episodes, like people have really gone through struggles, gone through traumas and overcome, and really it's now impacted their lives in such a way that they found a purpose and are doing extraordinary things. And with Richard, it was very much the story was very, I suppose, like PG. It's not anything traumatic. It's, I mean, at the end of the day, he's a 30-year-old male that's very physically fit, got his own business, lives on his own. So it's like, to many, he is living the dream.
Yeah,
but
on the outside, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really interesting. And as well to say, he's always had that sort of physique. He's always been quite a tall, strapping lad. So you kind of think there, well, what are we going to learn here? But then when you actually have the conversation around his mindset, and like where he says that he's never had problems with depression and anxiety, but then it's, well, how have you not had that? What has your mindset been like? And in having that very healthy mindset and a good mental well-being, how is it you've achieved it? And then what is it? And those doubts, we all have those days and we plummet and we feel a bit down. And then how has he managed to maintain an overall good? So it was a really, really captivating conversation.
It goes deeper than that though, because he was talking about his mentor that completed suicide. And to have something like that happen around you, and then it not, obviously it's going to affect him, but as you said, like from the outside, he's still got a very positive mindset and he's very driven. That's quite incredible as well. I think wellness is something that we're going to delve into a lot more in future episodes, because there's a lot of different avenues that we can go down. Obviously, health is quite a big one, because in an office environment, a lot of people are sitting down all day, and it's bad for your back, it's bad for your weight, it's bad for your posture, all this sort of stuff. I'd love to get more guests on talking about the mental side of things as well, mental health support. Yeah, that's obviously been quite a big thing with the lockdown, with people being forced into their homes and staying there. I think now people are really starting to see the toll of it as well. Yeah. And then the other thing that I've been brought to mind, I worked with a client a couple of weeks ago who does finance clinics, financial well-being, because the idea is if you're living in a rented place and you want to buy your first home, but you've got all these debts and you don't know where to start, that's going to play on your mind. It's going to affect your productivity. It's going to affect your concentration and your happiness. So definitely. I'd love to speak to that side of things as well, and how businesses can help support their staff, not just by paying them each month, but by giving them advice on how to use that money to better their lives and get what they want as well.
Oh, I definitely agree with you there. And to explore different avenues of health in the workplace, and especially as you said, like with the pandemic, and now we're in lockdown 3, it is really taking its toll. Like in the first lockdown, it was all new. So in essence, there's an element of excitement because it is new and it's something to overcome. And so people went full pelt and really did some extraordinary things. And that's not to take away anything that's being done now. There's still people doing some very extraordinary things. But on the other hand, like when you look at the statistics, I can't remember where I heard it the other day. It was like on the news, a report that was saying about in this lockdown, people are spending so much more time just sat in joggers watching Netflix compared to the first lockdown, when everybody was sort of finding new ways to engage themselves mentally, emotionally, and physically. And as well, like employee well-being has changed in the last year and a half. Like it's just completely evolved, or it has to now. And going back to you can't really call it normal, but going back to the new normal we'll have, is how will that workplace look like? Will we be back to sitting at a desk 5 days a week? How many people have now realised the amount you can get done when you're not spending an hour or 2 hours commuting to work and back again, how much more time that saves you and how much more productive you can be during the day? I was speaking to a client of mine, he's got a company, he's around about 100 staff. So obviously for them, it was all office based. So they just boom, straight over the space of a few days, they're all suddenly working from home. And it was interesting to hear from him as the employer, as the company director, how he's managing things and what his thoughts were around his employees' health. And obviously he's got the pessimism inside him going, well, they're all at home, what if they're just in their pajamas, or what if they clock in on the computer screen and then all of a sudden the TV's on to the side and they're watching Netflix all day and nothing's getting done. But then on the optimistic side, he's thinking, no, people have been protected. Well, and when he looked at the performance and how they were doing, they were very productive and everything was getting done and more. Overall, it actually worked out to be really effective for them. But I sort of said to him, and he said as well, he was a bit concerned, a bit worried because for some people, he knew they were quite lonely, and being in the office was their interaction. And then obviously being in lockdown, can't go anywhere. So for those people that haven't got a family, a partner or a cat at home, they are just on their own. So he was a bit concerned about a couple of his employees there and worried about how to reach out. And then as an employer, at what point do you at what point are you just being a good boss and checking up on them? And when does that become too much and bugging and pestering them? And it's finding that balance. But I said to him that if overall, if you've got a great performance and you're a bit worried, if you've got one or two people you think might be sort of taking advantage of the situation, but overall the performance is good, then I think relax there and don't put too much pressure on it. But also there are going to be those people, which he said himself, there are going to be those people that have got children to care for that are now homeschooling, and it's just, they're not going to be able to get as much done as someone that is sitting there at a desk in their office with no distractions. And it's just about being sympathetic and empathetic in that situation. But he was also saying, as the business owner, he realised the amount that he would pick up just by walking through the office at the start of the day over to his office in the corner. And then when he finished, or whatever time he left the office, going back through the main office, and just those little snippets of information and conversations that he picked up on at that time, he was able to analyse so much and understand so much of the day-to-day of what's going on. And he said without that, it's really impacting his own understanding of his own company.
I don't know if I agree wholeheartedly with the childcare thing not being as productive as being in an office, because I know there's some I need to look at them properly, but there's some really shocking statistics about how many actual solid proper work hours people do at an office, because you get distracted. I remember when I worked in an office, I was pretty lazy, to be honest. I did talk to people, but then if I could get away with it, I would be looking at some videos on YouTube or looking at some websites and stuff. And I know I'm not the only one that would be doing stuff like that. So I think, obviously, childcare, yes, it's an issue. You're not going to be able to do a 9 to 5. But if you can find 2 to 3 hours when your partner's home or when your kids are in bed to do solid, concentrated work, you're probably doing about as much work as you were doing in the office anyway.
Yeah, I do see what you mean there, because when I think as well how I work, so where my sort of working day to day has evolved a lot and changed. So I now am essentially office based. I go out to look at jobs and meet with clients, but other than that, I'm sat in an office. And when I think about the work that I do, there's elements that are very analytical, like in terms of going through finances, paying the bills, planning, doing all the work stuff, like the work diary and such for the teams. But then there's obviously the creative element where I'm creating ads and creating content, whether that's videoing or just putting some pictures together, editing it all. And when I think of that work, often when I was working from home before I had my lovely office, when I was working from home, I'd often have those sorts of moments in time. So I'd sit on the sofa and have a film going on. Like I'd watch a film that I've seen a million times, so it's just comfort. It's on in the background. I don't have to sit and pay attention. I know what's going to be said. I know what's going to happen, but just sitting there, cozy on the sofa, on my laptop, editing, like putting those ads together. And I found that quite productive, and I'd get stuff done. Obviously, if I was writing an article, I'd never get anything done. But doing those creative tasks is quite efficient to do, I think, when you're more. Yeah,
relaxed. I mean, childcare is a whole other thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what I'm trying to say is it's all about flow. So if you're in an office, there's always going to be constant distractions, whether it's phones ringing or it's people coming up to talk to you and things like that. So your flow is always being interrupted, and it takes brain power to get back into that state of concentration. Whereas at home, if you've got that time carved out, you can sit down for an hour and just work solidly, no distractions, turn your notifications off, and you're really productive and you get a lot of work done.
Have you read The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss?
Not yet.
See that would apply massively to lockdown. But there are some strategies in there that when I think, like in terms of the office and the amount of studies that have been done, and exactly as you said, it's quite an unproductive atmosphere. But he talks a lot about like the whole thing of being in the office and the distractions, and people come up to you, and one little thing he suggests is about having this sign on your desk or your chair or your computer that's, I think it was like a red triangle or something, but it's a code to say, if I have that sign, you do not disturb me, you do not tap me on the shoulder, knock on the door, whatever it is, do not disturb until that triangle is removed. And the amount of people I've actually spoken to that are saying about when they're at home is they are so much more productive because they just sit at the desk, open up the computer or whatever it is, start working, and nothing distracts them, so they just crack on. But it's also got to certain extremes when it's become a negative, because people, they're at home, there's nothing to do, they clock on at 8 or whatever when they need to, carry on working, they're like, oh, I'm at home, they don't bother with like a lunch break or anything, and then comes around to 5 o'clock when they're supposed to be finishing, and they're like, oh, I've only got a couple emails, I'll just do that. And then when they actually stop for the day, they find it's getting later and later in the day, and then when they even do stop, it's hooked up to their phone, or the computer's only in the other room. And if there's stuff going on at work and you're like, oh, Michelle didn't get back to me on that client issue. Oh, let me just go check my emails quick, she might have got back to me. And the next thing you know, it's 9:30 at night, and instead of like relaxing after dinner before you go to bed, you're there at your desk still working. So it's been, I suppose for an employer though, that's a very good thing. Your employees are doing even more work.
Not really, because then they'll get burnt out. But it's everyone getting in. I mean, self-employed people have been doing this for years. So it's staff getting into that mindset of you need to have boundaries. So for me, I've got a separate office for my business. So when I step out of the office, I can leave it behind a little bit.
How the other half live, a separate office.
And then the other thing is having your set schedule, your set time, which does fluctuate a bit for me. But I know after 7:30, I do not do any work whatsoever, because I know if I keep working, then it doesn't give my brain enough time to shut off before I go to bed. So then I'm kept up with my mind going crazy, which means I don't sleep very well. I get up the next morning and I'm tired and I'm not as productive. So it's actually better for me to stop at 7:30, because then I know the next day I'm going to be a lot more productive and get a lot more done. That's why my girlfriend doesn't understand when I'm working, and she just sort of just pops in the room and like looks over my shoulder, and I get annoyed because I'm in that concentration zone. You know, I'm doing something, I'm focusing on something, and I'm doing really well and getting lots of stuff done, and then that concentration's broken, and it takes me 5 minutes, 10 minutes to really get back into that and get working properly again.
Do you find being self-employed or being a business owner, there's the challenge of people that are employed often don't understand the concept of work for a business owner? So like an example being, with being at home, where I started coming off the tools, so then I was at home a lot of the time before I got my lovely office. I was at home working, so I still need to be working and making sure I'm clocking in and doing all the things that need to be done. But to my family around me, it's like, oh, you're just at home, Hayden. You can do it. Oh, I need you to do this. Oh, I'm going food shopping. I need someone to come with me, so you're coming with me. And it's like, well, I can't. I'm working. No, you're not. You're sat at the table, or well, when I say about creative work, you sat on the sofa doing nothing, watching a film. And I'm like, no, I'm working. I need to do this. And I think that's a misconception as well with a bit. So like my business being in garden care, people attach that to gardening. So the act of gardening is work in this business. Anything that's not gardening is not work. But still, if it was any company, no matter what you do, if you've got a garden company with 1,000 employees, you're going to have multiple employees where they don't do any gardening, and they're actually just in the office at a desk all day long because they're doing admin, because they're doing marketing, because they're doing client relationships. So I think it's sometimes difficult for people to understand with a small business that as the owner, you have to have all of these different hats and that you're working. And just if you say no to someone, you're not saying, no, I don't want to, or I refuse to help out, I'm going to sit here doing nothing. It's like, no, I've got to get this work done. Yeah. Which is a challenge.
I have that all the time. But I think we've gone off topic a little bit.
Yeah. So that's it for this week. Thank you for listening. We really appreciate it. And as always, we'd love to hear your feedback. So do let us know. Next week, we're joined by Emily Brown of Emily Brown Photography, a photographer who really knows how to benefit the environment through her practice of business. So tune in next week to hear how she does exactly that. Until next time.
Wait.
Get in touch with us on social.
Yeah. Where can they find us?
They can find us on Instagram at Benevolent Business Podcast. You're on my LinkedIn, Dave. Or email me, hayden.bloomfield@hotmail.com.
And there's Facebook.
And there's Facebook. Yeah, I did set up Facebook, didn't I? Yeah. Again, Benevolent Business Podcast.
See you next week.
See you next week.